blessed is the one who does not walk in the step with the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take, or sit in the company of mockers, but whose delight is in the law of the Lord, and who meditates on his law day and night. That person is like a tree planted by the streams of water, which yield its fruits in season, and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever they do prospers. Not so the wicked, they are like chaff that the winds blow away. Therefore the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For the Lord watch over the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked leads to destruction. Let us pray. Our Father,
who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses. We forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Start taking with minutes. Peter Turnquest, Brent Simonet, Desmond Bannister, Renwood Wells, Jeffrey Lloyd, Dr. Greenstein, Marvin Dame, Frank Campbell, Denicio D'Aguila, Michael Pintard, Darren Henfield, Ramal Pereira, Lanisha Rose, Renzo Rose, Ellsworth Johnson, Philip Davis, Juan Miller, Keisha Parker Edstrom, Aaron Lewis, Carlton Bolag, James Mulberry, Travis Robinson, Adrian Gibson, Donald Saunders, Frederick McAlpine, Hank Johnson, Mark Hume, Michael Folk, Miriam Reckling Manuel, Reese Chipman, Ruben Rami, Ricky Mackey, Shannon Don Cartwright, Chanel Ferguson, Glennis Hannah Martin, Faisal Ford, Chester Cooper.
Good morning, honorable members. Honorable members, there will be no communication by the speaker this morning, but honorable members, several matters of immediate public importance has been brought to the attention of the speaker, and the speaker has acceded to the request of the member for Mangrove Key, South and Central Andros. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Mangrove Key, South and Central Andros.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's good to stand here in these hallowed halls this morning to say thanks to all for their well wishes and complimentary comments received or otherwise over the past few weeks and months. And to those whom I've not seen eye to eye or already agreed with, whether we met at funerals, church services, weddings, town meetings, homecomings, etc. You've made me and kept me grounded, honest, and some of you even inspired me, and others, even though critical, kept me going. I've learned from you. I've learned how to observe, listen, and overall, the collective you made me a better person and secondarily, a better member of Parliament. It has been the greatest honor of my life representing my hometown in this place, Mr. Speaker. I've learned how to respect the dignity of my struggling communities, and also I witnessed the power of faith and how our collective efforts through engagement and community building initiatives made life a little more manageable for you, my constituency family. The demands were and still are great.
I tried my best, many times giving up my personal meager resources to meet constituents' personal commitments or challenges or otherwise, be they healthcare costs, school fees, educational and or rental assistance, or simply paying a light or water bill. It was always done with the the general notion, pardon me, of making life easier for my people in Mangrove Key South and Central Andros. Yes, our progress at the constituency level has not been even or even evidenced in some quarters. But like President Obama said, and I quote, democracy has always been hard, contentious, and sometimes bloody, end of quote. Sometimes it appears for every 2 steps forward, it often looks like 1 step backward. And of course, the COVID-19 pandemic did not make life any easier. I can proudly say, as I stand here today, that the communities of Mangrove Key, South and Central Andros are much better off today than we were when we commenced our partnership just over 13 years ago. I'll simply recap in my final 2 minutes. 2010, we had the $20 million dock constructed in Fresh Creek. Then we had the installation of what we call the Bishop Mackey Dock in Bering Point. We created employment opportunities in the public and private sector. Preschool system was open in the constituency across the board. There would have been technological advances in our schools, agriculture, and animal husbandry program. But, Mr. Speaker, it would not be my good fortune to be around with my friend, who would have assisted so greatly, the member for Carmichael and Deputy Prime Minister, to see the opening of the $8 million plus gymnasium in South Andros. I would only wish I could have been there to maybe turn the spigot for the $13 million potable water system in South Andros, or to see through the completion of the dock work that I saw so proudly just last week, as I sat on the dock in Lisbon Creek Harbor and saw the barge bringing in all the supplies into Mangrove Key, or to see the clinic in Mangrove Key and or the subdivision work completed. For all of the efforts made, though, it was not enough. My people are still highly disadvantaged, and what's more crippling than ever is the level of cynicism and polarization in our local politics. I never tried to fool anyone, nor did I have any illusions of the challenges my hometown was facing, but we tried. Today I stand, Mr. Speaker, to take my last political breath. My name would never rise again in political cycles. My work is done politically. Mr. Speaker, but as I leave, going forward, it would be my sincerest hope that we as a fledgling society would uphold law against discrimination in hiring, in housing, rental assistance, and social welfare, educational options, and in the criminal justice system. Passing laws in this honorable place is idealistic, and generally we feel that way. But passing of laws alone is not good enough. Our hearts must change, and it starts here. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank a few people before I take my seat. I'd like to say thanks to my beautiful wife, who's at home along with my daughter Priscilla watching this morning, who prayed with me this morning, my mom, Deaconess Lily Mae Forbes, my siblings, and the extended community of South Central and Mangrove Key Andros. Special thanks to Brother Joel Ramming, Brother Charles Miller, Charmaine Ferguson, Andrea Russell, and her husband, Mr. Russell, Brother Kendall Taylor, Aaron Roll, Sheba McPhee, Maggie Rogers, Brawley and Auntie Russell Elsie Smith, Wanda Carey, Jeffrey Johnson, Benji Forbes, the Reverend James Pratt, Administrator Francine Neal and Mr. Neely, and most importantly, my good friend Otner Lewis. In Mangrove Key, Brother Leonardo Lightborn, I want to wish you the very best. Garnet Bullard, Garnell Grain, Harry Saunders, my real friend, Desmond Saunders, and the Reverend Hubert King. And special thanks to Bishops Moses Johnson, Neil Ellis, and Lester Cox. The Reverend Christopher Smith and my good friend Sadie Bastian and Reverend Bastian in Mangrove Key. In Fresh Creek, Emily Miller, Reverend Hinsey, Arthur Brown, Glenn Johnson, Brother Klinger, thank you. And also to Dave Nemours, Chairman, Mabel Stubbs, Ida Nesbitt, Bishop Raymond Markey and Ranford Markey and Dimey Russell, thank you. To former Prime Ministers, the Right Honorable Hubert A. Ingram, wish you the best in recovery, and also to the Honorable Perry G. Christie, one also wish you the very best. To my political friend, Mr. Speaker, before I take my seat, the Honorable Fred Mitchell, my true friend, Secretary General Barbara Cartwright, Ms. Lula Mae Smith. To my parliamentary colleagues, Senator the Honorable Dr. Michael Dowell, to Exuma and Ragged Island, Angliston, Golden Isles, and the member for Rumpke, Cat Island, and San Salvador, our leader, thanks for the high honor of having the opportunity to serve as leader of opposition business. To Brother Terry Duvalier and my brother, Rick, thanks very much. And to my still politically broken sister who's watching this morning, who's crying, Audrey Bullard Bonamy, I love you and cherish your heart and courage. To my detractors, it may be your day to celebrate or be gleeful. What I say, admittedly, that they did not get everything right. There were some missteps, but I'm confident in the fact that I'm not a slave to fear, but I'm an imperfect child of God. Mine has been the pleasure to serve. My faith has been rewarded in ways I could not possibly imagine. To all branch executives, volunteers, and those names I didn't call, please forgive me. To Administrators Campbell and Lightbourne, thanks. Hopefully you'll join you guys on the Fishing Rock pretty shortly. Local government practitioners, religious leaders, and civic leaders, thank you. To all of you, my colleagues, continue to be unselfish, altruistic, creative, patriotic, and serving our God. Once again, I just want the record to reflect, as I would have very short time, I guess, in this honorable place, and let the word go far and wide, that I will not be offering in the 2022 general elections. But to those in my constituency who are concerned, please, I am okay. God has taken care of everything and will continue to do so. I will ask you to continue to believe in our country, our God, and to share love with our fellow men. As Androsians, please let us continue to protect our treasured Bahama land. Farewell, my brothers and sisters, farewell. May God continue to bless the communities of South, Central Andros, and Mangrove Key, and may our God continue to bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Thank you much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Mangrove Key, South and Central Andros. Honorable Member, I've always regarded you as one of my best friends. And this is a sad day for me, indeed. But I want to encourage you, as you did in a most statesmanly manner this morning, indicating your sentiments to this honorable chamber with respect to your political career and your apparent imminent departure from this political arena. I know it's not been easy, it's been challenging, but I'll say this to you, and I'll take this word to you from Ephesians chapter 6, beginning at verse 10. Be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against evil schemes. For your struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against rulers, against authorities, against powers and dark places of this world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realm. Therefore, put on the full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground. And after you have done everything to stand, stand firm. Then, with
the belt of truth buckled around your waist, and the breastplate of righteousness in place, and with your feet fitted with the readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. And in addition to all this, take up the shield of faith with which you can extinguish all flaming arrows of the evil one. Take the helmet of salvation and the word of the Spirit, which is the word of God. Honorable Member for Mangrove Key, South and Central Andros, I wish you all the best in your endeavors. As a senior man in this place, you have made many friends. And I'm certain that even as you leave, those who may remain will come to your rescue in your time of need. I speak that prayer over you this morning. Introduction and swearing in of new members. Laying of documents by ministers. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Kalani.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to lay on the table of the House a copy of the following. Emergency Powers COVID-19 Pandemic Risk Management Number 4, Amendment Number 6, Order 2021.
Order that the document be brought up. Order that the document to lie on the table. Further laying of documents by ministers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg leave to lay on the table of the House a copy of the following. The Prime Minister's Delivery Unit Annual Report 2020.
Order that the document be brought up. Order that the document do lie on the table. Further laying of documents by ministers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg leave to lay on the table of the House a copy of the following. The Aircraft Accident Investigation Authority Regulations 2001.
Order that the document be brought up.
Oh, yeah.
Order that the document do lie on the table. Further laying of documents by ministers. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Bamboo Town.
Mr. Speaker, there are no further laying of documents by ministers.
Statements and communications by ministers.
Mr. Speaker, there are no statements and communications by ministers.
Communications by the clerk. Messages from the Governor General. Messages from the Senate. Motions for leave of absence, leave to resign, seat, and new writs. Presentation of petitions. Presentation of reports of committees. Adoption of reports of committees. First reading of bills. Second reading and committal of bills. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Kalani.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yeah. Mr. Speaker, I want to commence the debate on the 2020 fiscal strategy report, the public financial management, debt management, statistics, and public procurement bills. And Mr. Speaker, I want to say that we would follow budget rules. Mr. Speaker, last year, I told Bahamians that we were in a fight against COVID and a fight to save lives. And under our leadership, the country launched an all-out assault on COVID-19, and we have seen the positive results. I remind Bahamians, however, do not let your guards down. And today, Mr. Speaker, we want to talk about another fight. Mr. Speaker, we are fighting for the Bahamian economy. We are fighting for Bahamian jobs and Bahamian businesses. We are fighting, Mr. Speaker, for our economic recovery and our economic growth. Although Hurricane Dorian and COVID has hit us with some devastating economic blows, we will continue to fight for our economy and be assured that this is a fight we will win. I want the public to rest assured that every member of my government is fighting for you and will win this fight. It is my privilege, Mr. Speaker, to commence the debate in this honorable House of the 2020 Fiscal Strategy Report, or 2020 FSR, as required by the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2018. I would like to remind this honorable House that the Fiscal Responsibility Act was a transformative piece of legislation enacted by this government after years of talk by the opposition. It is driving the very types of changes we will debate starting today, Mr. Speaker. And the fiscal responsibility principles, as stated in the Act, are as follows: achieving and maintaining a sustainable fiscal balance, achieving and maintaining prudent levels of public debt, and prudently managing fiscal risk. Along with the 2020 Fiscal Strategy Report, which I would refer to as FSR moving forward, we will also debate a compendium of legislative reforms that are central to the government's fiscal strategy and, more importantly, critical to good governance. These include, Mr. Speaker, the Public Procurement Bill 2020, the Statistics Bill 2021, the Public Financial Management Bill 2021, and the Debt Management Bill 2021, which will bring about greater levels of efficiency, transparency, and most of all, accountability. Together, Mr. Speaker, these efforts underpin the government's mandate for good governance. Countries around the world with strong governance institutions have demonstrated they tend to do better economically over time. The reforms we are proposing are not only long overdue, they are the right thing to do. The former Christie Davis administration had talked about these reforms. In some cases, they had even drafted bills. But as is their custom, they are long on pretty talk, but short on effective action. They had neither the will nor the toughness to make things happen. This is how we are different from them, Mr. Speaker. We endeavor to do the right thing, even if it is not the easy thing. Mr. Speaker, my job as Minister of Finance is to keep the government's fiscal house in order and to do what is necessary to secure the economy today and for our children and grandchildren tomorrow. Mr. Speaker, I only want to say that I'm saddened to hear, but I will talk to this at another time, that the member for South Andres, who has made great contribution to this parliament and has represented his South Andres constituency very well. As every time the member speaks, Mr. Speaker, it reminds me, and I'm sure many others, that he speaks with great passion and emotion on behalf of his constituency. Right. And he is very familiar, not only by face, but by name, with every member in his constituency. That is unheard of, and there are very few who has such talent and such camaraderie and closeness with their constituents. I only want to say to the member that he would be greatly missed, but many will remember his presentations and the way he represented his constituency, and be assured that whenever election is called, whomever we send there will follow in your footsteps. Speaker, I only want the member and others to hear that I'm certain that Kenneth Smith is up to the job, and Kenneth Smith will be the next representative for South Andres. Throughout this debate, Mr. Speaker, the public will hear big technical terms like fiscal targets and fiscal risk mitigation. Behind the jargon I am sharing today is the government's plan. A plan to restore the nation's financial health and build economic resilience beyond the coronavirus pandemic. It is, Mr. Speaker, a forward-looking three-year plan. It is clear. It is a clear and credible plan. And it is a plan that meets the opportunities and challenges of governance today and into the future. Despite the hollow criticisms of the opposition, this government, Mr. Speaker, is very deliberate and strategic in its approach to fiscal management. Last week, Last week, I tabled a communication on the mid-year budget. This provided an update on the Resilient Bahamas macroeconomic plan that was presented at the time of the budget debate last June. It was a carefully designed plan to achieve three objectives, Mr. Speaker. No, that was three. I didn't know grab. 1, 2, 3. 3. These objectives were three objectives, Mr. Speaker, 3. To support the social needs and well-being of Bahamians feeling the weight of the pandemic. 2, to maintain economic stability in the middle of the crisis. Mr. Speaker, we have maintained and worked on maintaining economic stability. During the crisis, one had to balance life with economy. And when one looks at what has happened around the world in terms of lives, I would say that we have accomplished that balance. And now we will look at our economy and move towards the future. And 3, the third, Mr. Speaker, to plant the seeds for accelerated recovery. It was a plan that instilled confidence in the Bahamian people at the time. It is a plan that has since saved lives, protected public and private sector jobs, delivered millions in relief to vulnerable families, communities, and businesses, and kept the economy afloat despite the most severe economic calamity we have faced in our modern history. Mr. Speaker, I am here to explain the government's medium-term plan for revenue, expenditure, debt, and economic growth. We are not figuring out things while we go. We are not waiting to see what happens. We are envisioning a future beyond the pandemic and putting a plan in place to get us there. We are planning the future. And I want to say to those watching in TV land, and especially the young people, what we do, it's about your future. Mr. Speaker, the opposition should take note of the new standard. There will be no going back to the days of secrecy and mismanagement. The laws we are enacting will ensure those days are long gone in the Bahamas. Mr. Speaker, the 2020 fiscal strategy includes four key focal areas over the next 3 years. I'm talking about 4, but over 3 years. 1, we will take care of our people. The pandemic has created great hardship all around the world. Governments have been called to provide greater levels of social support than ever before. We do so gladly because our health is our wealth, and our people are our priority. 2, we must put our finances in order. The double blow from Hurricane Dorian and COVID-19 threw us off the course we had undertaken successfully to bring down our deficits and our debt. We must recalibrate government finances and return to a more sustainable path. The plan calls for us to make state-owned enterprises work better and cost taxpayers less. It includes greater focus on public-private partnership for capital projects to provide the critical infrastructure, especially, Mr. Speaker, in our family islands. We are not, and we must not ever appear to be Nassau-centric. Mr. Speaker, as we move forward with our infrastructural plans throughout the family islands, we will ensure that our health facilities, clinics, are repaired and brought up to scratch. We will ensure that our schools are likewise. We will ensure that there are no discrimination between our family islands and New Providence. After all, Mr. We are one. And to show our sincerity with schools, we would very soon be traveling to Inagua to sign a contract for a new school in Inagua that is long. We would do the same, Mr. Speaker, to ensure, as part of our infrastructure development and expansion within the family islands, so as to assist our futuristic family island development and our tourist products. We will ensure that our roads are repaired and brought up to par. And I must say that we are embarking to ensure that Red Bays and North Andros likewise will have their road repaired. Then, Mr. Speaker, a part of this infrastructure expansion, correction, development within the family islands would include our docks, our bridges, water, and electricity. The member for Long Island is not here because I know he would want to talk about, I'm sure as he speaks, he will talk about laying pipes and whatever else, and wherever else he had laid such water lines. But, Mr. Speaker, part of the infrastructural expansion is to ensure the advancement of our telemedicine program that we had commenced in 2008, 2009, or subsequently sidetracked. But since COVID, Mr. Speaker, the entire world has gone towards telemedicine. So I'm certain that the Minister of Health would embark on the most aggressive telemedicine program so that individuals in Nagua, Crocodile and Auckland, wherever, Exuma, would have access to specialist care without experiencing the cost of air flights traveling back and forth to see a doctor with such skills. And if second opinions are needed for that patient in Inagua or in Exuma, that patient can receive such second opinion, be it here from doctors in New Providence or the U.S. as is necessary. And Mr. Speaker, we would do the same for our radiological departments, x-rays and ultrasounds, as we are moving into the digital era, of which I will speak more about as I advance throughout my debate. With ultrasound, all analog machines would be converted to digital, all analog X-ray equipment will be converted to digital, so that as individuals receive X-rays in the family islands, those X-rays can be interpreted by physicians here in New Providence or physicians in Grand Bahama on a on-call basis. Mr. Speaker, this would eliminate the problems we face in family islands today, where individuals fund Speaker, this would eliminate individuals having to. Yeah, I'm going on those bills too. I'm going to touch the bill.
We want to stand on this too.
The chair recognizes Honorable Member for Cat Island, Romkey, and San Salvador.
Speaker, Speaker, today notice was given of us debating the midterm paper and the fiscal strategy report. That's what notice is given on. No, that's what you mentioned. No, you mentioned now that, Mr. Speaker, for the first time, this is the first time, and the first time we are hearing that we're doing these compendium of bills, bill number 171, 172, and none, I don't know if anyone would have. These are important bills. These are very important bills. You don't just by some sweeping approach mention it. The first time we heard about these bills being debated is just now, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I'm not aware that you were giving any notice of anything other than the midterm budget debate.
Mr. Speaker, we are. Mr. Speaker, we are a government of transparency. We are a government of accountability. And though I had mentioned it last week, we would still honor the opposition's request, and we would put a day aside just to deal with those bills as you choose. It's quite evident that you are not prepared. We always do the right thing.
You can agree to it anyhow. There was consultation.
We always do the right thing.
Why? Because we could debate.
But Mr. Speaker.
We could debate them, but not pass them.
Yeah. We'd accommodate them. So, Mr. Speaker, all of our radiological equipment should be converted from analog to digital, so that those X-rays can be performed and interpreted by New Providence, Grand Bahama, and if necessary, can have a second interpretation by radiologists in the United States or whomever we have contracted. And this is where we are going, Mr. Speaker. Then the electricity. It is essential that we ensure that all of our family islands have electricity needs that are necessary. And very soon, we will demonstrate the changes that we've put in place within the Ragged Island and its solar component with electricity. Then, Mr. Speaker, as we continue along the road of our infrastructural development and expansion throughout the family islands, our parks would likewise be included. And as I mentioned before, we would reintroduce the Bahama Games. I see Pine Ridge left us. Oh, I am so happy you finally like something I said. That's 1 out of 100. 1 out of 100. At least I moved out of the zero category. Thank you, Pine Ridge.
Good Pine Ridge.
You may have thought. So, Mr. Speaker, it's unfortunate that South Andres is not here, but we've already commenced the completion process of the gymnasium in the South Andres constituency. And it is our intention that with the reintroduction of Bahama Games, the basketball component of the Bahama Games will be played in South Andres. Even if not the final, at least the preliminaries.
Yeah.
And this is the first time as Speaker we are moving away from just New Providence and Grand Bahama, but allowing the family islands to be involved. This would also include baseball. And baseball components will be played in Grand Bahama, Eleuthera, and Bimini. After which the final can be played in one of the respective islands. You know, Mr. Speaker, Bimini used to be a big powerhouse in the past in the sporting arena. I always remember going down, spending all my summers in Grand Bahama and going to watch baseball played by my brother, Cecil. Yeah, I used to watch. Oh, you probably was very short. That's why I never noticed you. You played too? You played that Randy role? Okay, yeah. No, I used to watch. I never used to play. But Bimini was very good. Bimini was, huh? Yes. I used to watch. When Grand Bahama and Bimini played, it was like the World Series. So you know. And Mr. Speaker, I would have, even if I don't, the new Minister of Sports will have a lot to say about sports as we move forward. As I travel to Government House at 1:30 today for the swearing in of this new minister. The third, we must grow the economy. Turning the economy around and building economic resilience beyond the pandemic is a must. With our plan, Mr. Speaker, the government will unleash private sector investment with strong employment growth, embrace innovation, remove structural impediments to growth, and support a more digital and business-friendly government. 4, we must be vigilant. No matter how many plans we create, how many models we forecast, the world is an uncertain place today because of COVID-19. I say I get 2. That's the second agreement. I done well, Pine Ridge.
Coming back.
No, I didn't say that.
Coming back. I do sense.
Okay, Pine Ridge nominations are not in my hand. I have 1 vote.
You can take a page of the Cat Island book.
That was a good place for final order.
You have 1 vote too, right? You have 1 vote too.
No,
Huh?
no.
1 vote. Anyhow, the country also has long-standing issues that pose fundamental risk. The plan calls for the government to stay sharp and to plan ahead to manage various risks. Mr. Speaker, earlier I alluded to the importance of growing the economy and restructuring public finances. The simple fact is that modernizing and enhancing our fiscal management legislation through the 4 bills presented today is a fundamental element in ensuring that we put in place a strong governance framework that supports economic and social development of the Bahamas for many years to come. I'll just say a few words, Mr. Speaker, about the Public Financial Management Bill 2021, but we will have a formal debate later. The Public Financial Bill, or PFM Bill 2021, represents the full recast of the current Financial Administration and Audit Act that was most recently substantively updated in 2010, but which foundation was back in 1975, some 46 years ago. And to meet the realities of a modern Bahamas, this very extensive bill will better define the roles of key officials in the public finance arena. It will expand the requirements for budgetary and fiscal reporting, including the eventual introduction of published monthly budget reports. So let me be clear, Mr. Speaker. For the first time in our history, every government will be required by law to report and publish every month the government's fiscal position. Do I get a third one? I get a third one. Oh, I doing good today. I doing good. Fine, which my love improving for you, you know. But I only have one vote. I only have one vote. And they already cast the die. They didn't come to for my vote. I don't know yet. I don't know when you don't know. Anyhow, it will require central government agencies, Mr. Speaker, and state-owned enterprises, or SOEs, to undertake documented performance management. This means they will have to publish management goals and objectives and report on their successes in meeting them. The PFM bill, Mr. Speaker, also sets specific administrative and criminal penalties for lack of compliance and for malfeasance. The bill sets a totally different standard for the management of the people's money. A few notes on the Procurement Bill 2020. And this bill is about government's contracts, how they are advertised, how they are managed, how they are awarded, and how they are publicized. The passage of this bill, Mr. Speaker, will be a watershed moment in the political history of the Bahamas. The mystery and the mischief and the chatter about who gets what contracts and in what amounts will fall away. The details of these activities will be published online promptly and will also be consolidated annually in a published report. It will require all government entities, including SOEs, state-owned enterprises, to register vendors on an online procurement portal and to use that portal to offer bids. It will be open and transparent. It will be transformative. I remind the public, Mr. Speaker, that the opposition had a draft procurement bill while they were in office. They never, ever got around to seeing that it was passed. although they talked about it quite a bit. But again, Mr. Speaker, we don't do things just for show. We do things for a purpose. Good governance is about doing what is right and not what is politically expedient. The bill is long overdue. We are thus confident that the opposition will embrace this bill after its debate wholeheartedly. The Statistics Bill, Mr. Speaker, 2021. This bill will transform the current Department of Statistics into a quasi-independent National Statistics Institute that will be governed by a board of directors. The bill defines the scope of what data points are included under the umbrella of national statistics. It provides enhanced power to the new institute to enforce the collection of vital information. Moving the institute outside the direct control of the central government will allow the entity more flexibility in recruitment of talent and management of operations. Given that this information has commercial value, the Institute will have the power to generate special reports, data sets, and subscriptions that it can offer for sale to help it offset its operational costs. And these special commercial reports and subscriptions will be in addition to the vastly expanded range of reports and statistics that will be made available to the public absolutely free of charge. Most importantly, Mr. Speaker, the new institute will allow the country to leap forward with its collection, analysis, and use of data for public and private policy decisions. It is, Mr. Speaker, and most certainly will be transformative. Mr. Speaker, data collection is extremely important, as we've seen with the pandemic. Our decisions were data and scientific driven. Our lockdowns were data and scientific driven. What we did were scientifically driven. And the Speaker, we look at that. No, Heinrich, you would agree that that was well done. The dump is now a park. I've told it to park.
Don't hang around no more.
No. Also, Mr. Speaker, modernization of public service through digitization and reconstruction of Abaco and Grandam all would be reported in here. Mr. Speaker, these recent times have been challenging for all. And throughout this debate, my ministers and members of Parliament will continue to detail what the government is doing to fight for the lives of Bahamians. Especially when I look at COVID, the United States has had more than 500,000 deaths. Heinrich, you know what that would have done to the Bahamas if we had that amount of deaths?
What do you know more about?
We would be past tense. And that is why we are futuristic. And that is why it's all about your future.
Hey, somebody nominating? You say nominating Patrick? I hear your nomination. Oh, sorry. Y'all gotta list us off for that.
We have to have a talk. 'Cause I know you still may want to come over. You double-crossed me the last time.
You don't want Angleston some soccer. You don't want that.
Angleston.
Angleston took off her glasses.
He was supposed to be my candidate. And I was sitting down, lying down in my bed watching TV.
Hey,
And then there was a PLP rally. And who you think I saw walking on the stage?
yes, sir.
Walking on the stage. But how you do the crab sign? How you do it, Angleston? I don't remember. he had his placard. I said, well, no. He double-crossed me.
Chair recognizes the honorable member for the exhumus on the point of order.
The speaker. I was in my bed, man. You wasn't in there with me.
I've addressed this issue before. We have very serious national crisis in our country. We don't have this time. We don't have time for nonsense, untruths, Mr. Speaker. I've addressed it before. I won't address it again. But I asked the Prime Minister to speak to the needs of our country. It's blatant. It's blatantly untrue, Mr. Speaker. For the record, and I will not say this again, I never applied to the FNL for a nomination, Mr. Speaker. We are where we are. We have serious national crisis in this country, and we have no time for nonsense and games. We must speak to the hunger and the poverty and the suffering in our country, and that's what I wish to hear about, Mr. Speaker.
Anyhow.
That's what the Prime Minister has been doing for the past.
Anyhow. Exuma. I now know what your debate will be. You will talk about
Crisis.
yes, I understand. I mean, it's good it's good to preempt us. Good to preempt us. Mr. Speaker, I want to say, vehement people, in tourism, we are fighting for you. In education, we are fighting for you.
What did you do to advise?
In healthcare, we are fighting for you.
You can take a break, yeah.
Yeah. For every mother struggling to make ends meet, we are fighting for you. For every young person struggling to find a job or make your own business, we are fighting for you. While we may feel pressure, we are not in a state of panic. We may feel stress, but we are not in distress. As we continue to deliver on our resilient Bahamas plan, we will emerge from this crisis even stronger. We will be a better Bahamas, a better people.
Yes, we will be.
If we stay the course.
We'll be strong on the other side. Strong.
And Pine Ridge,
Yes.
you will stay the course. Mr. Speaker, thank you. Mr. Speaker, I move that the fiscal strategy report and the midterm budget communication be adopted.
Yeah. Thank you, honorable member. Is there a seconder? Chair recognizes the honorable member for Golden Gates. The chair recognizes the honorable member for
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, seeing that we are... Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Seeing that we're about 5 minutes or so from the luncheon hour, Mr. Speaker, I do now move that the business of this House do suspend until 3 p.m. when we will continue with our debate.
Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the business of this House suspend until 3 p.m. this afternoon. As many members that are in favor will remain seated, those who oppose will stand. It is ordered that the business of this House stand suspended until 3 p.m.